Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, February the 6th. We're going to go through Thursday's 5 game slate, go position by position, just talk about the plays that stand out to me the most, looking at this slate on Wednesday night. These are some of my early thoughts, just giving you guys what I see, taking a first glance. We will cover Draftkings and we'll go over to Yahoo. We'll talk about some players I do like for Yahoo, looking at their pricing. Just as always, guys, before we do get started, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. If you are new to the channel, if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And you can also follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. If you want to give me a follow, I would definitely appreciate it. Also, link down below is my Patreon. If you do want to see all the exclusive content I do have to offer over there, you can check out my Patreon link down below. I will have a lot of updated and in-depth content posted later on in the afternoon. I do get these videos up on YouTube the night before, but throughout the day, Thursday, I'm going to be working on Patreon content, my article. I'll have updated core plays posted over on Patreon, especially because this is definitely a slate where we're going to need some updates. A couple of guys questionable, like Russell Westbrook, which is obviously very impactful. We'll talk about those injuries when we go through each position, but if you do want to get access to my updated content, you can check out the Patreon. You can get in our Discord chat as well. Talk through the slate with us. I'll be in Discord up until lock, answering questions. If you ever have like lineup specific questions, the best place to be is on Discord because that's where I'm at heading up to lock. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and look at point guard for today. James Harden, our most expensive option on the slate, $12,400 on DraftKings. Looking over to Yahoo, talking about their pricing, you have Harden at $56. So it's pretty clear that if Russell Westbrook's out, James Harden is a great play today. If Russell Westbrook plays, probably won't be going to Harden at this salary. So this is just kind of news we have to wait and see on. Westbrook did not play Tuesday against the Hornets. He's questionable heading into Thursday's game with a thumb injury. If I had to guess, I would say he most likely plays, especially given that it's like a national televised game against the Lakers, big time game. I would expect Westbrook wants to play this game. Looks like the Thunder or the not the Thunder, but the Rockets are on a back-to-back, so this is the front end of a back-to-back. So maybe Westbrook plays this game Thursday and then rests on Friday. I could definitely see him doing that. I'm going into this slate assuming he plays. If he's out, you guys obviously know to play James Harden. Last game against the Hornets, with Westbrook out, Harden played 40 minutes, 79 DraftKings points, just does what he does. 26 field goal attempts, just had so much volume, 40 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up a similar line today if Westbrook's out. I mean, the dude averages nearly 2 fantasy points per minute with both Westbrook and Capella off the floor this season. So I really like James Harden if Westbrook's out. If he plays, don't have a ton of interest. LeBron, I do like quite a bit here in a pace-up spot against the Rockets. I think at 10-4, LeBron does stand out. I think if Westbrook plays, LeBron's probably my favorite point guard to pay up for between him or between the two Houston guys and then LeBron. I do like LeBron the most. I like him in a good pace-up matchup here. He faced the Rockets earlier this season. I believe this was a game where Anthony Davis did not play. Had 58 DraftKings points in 35 minutes. Looking at pace stats, the Rockets, they are playing at the second fastest pace in the league. The Lakers, towards the middle of the pack, 14th in pace. In terms of total, we don't have a total on this game right now. I would assume this game probably comes in with like a 225, 226 total. Right now, we do have 3 of the 5 games with totals. We got 231.5 in New Orleans, Chicago, 227 in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and 231 in San Antonio, Portland. I'd have to assume we get a similar total for this game. I would expect this game to stay close, especially if the Rockets do have both Harden and Westbrook playing. So I like LeBron as a pay-up option today. Not my favorite pay-up option. We will talk about Giannis when we get to power forward. I like Giannis quite a bit in a game that should stay close against the Sixers. But LeBron is a good play. I would definitely prefer him over a guy like Damian Lillard. Lillard finally came back down to earth last game. Only played 30 minutes against Denver. They got blown out. 39 DraftKings points. Finally just didn't shoot 60% from the field like the last 4 or 5 games that Lillard. Like, he's been on this heater. I mean, he's been shooting 50, 60% from 3. Like, that's just not going to happen every game. Eventually, Lillard was going to, not put up 70 DraftKings points. At 10K, I mean, he's not a bad play, but, people kept playing Lillard because of the heater, because he was on such a hot streak, and I just kept fading him. I thought there was other guys to go to. Lillard's not going to be a guy that puts up 60, 70 DraftKings points every night. We obviously saw that last game against the Spurs. I could see him having success here, but on this slate, I think I'd rather play LeBron. Honestly, if Westbrook plays, I'd probably rather play him for 200 more. So don't really see myself going to much Damian Lillard today. Ben Simmons in a pace-up spot against Milwaukee, I guess you could consider. His price is finally coming down. He's down to 8,100 on Draftkings. He did put up a really big game against the against the Bucks earlier this season, 55 Draftkings points in 38 minutes. We know Ben Simmons is going to play monster minutes. I mean, if the game's close, like Ben Simmons is going to play close to 40 minutes. That's what he's been getting in competitive games just as of late. Only played 34 minutes against Miami, but that was a blowout. Against Boston, they lost by 21. He still played 37 minutes in that game. Like, if we're going to get close to 40 minutes from Ben Simmons in a pace-up spot against the Bucks are playing at the fastest pace in the league this season, especially with his price coming down. I do have some interest in Ben Simmons today. In the mid-range, you got the New Orleans guys you could go to. I was very high on Drew Holiday last slate, and he burned me really bad. I mean, I was pretty heavy on him. I was way overweight on him in tournaments. Did not have a good game at all. Only shot 21% from the field, 16% from three, had 22 Draftkings points. It's very hard to predict like which one of these New Orleans guards is going to have the big game. Now that Zion's healthy, Zion was listed as questionable, but we just got word that he's actually going to play, or he's going to play on Thursday. He's going to be available to play. So with Zion, Ingram, Lonzo, Derek Favors, with all these guys fully healthy, it's just really hard to predict who's going to put up the big game on a nightly basis. I think if I have to play a Pelican, it's going to be either Zion or Ingram. We will talk about Ingram. I think he's the guy that I like the most just because he's still the highest usage player on this team, even with Zion healthy. The guards are tough to go to. Lonzo, I think he had a decent game last game. 36 Draftkings points in 39 minutes. Like, he's going to play monster minutes. Choosing between him or Drew. Factoring in pricing, given Lonzo's a little bit cheaper, I guess I'd side with him for 200 less. Looking at Yahoo, their pricing, you got Lonzo at 31. Or Lonzo at 29, Drew at 31. I think I'd probably lean Lonzo as well. But I don't expect to be too heavy on the New Orleans guards. I think if I'm going to target New Orleans, I want to do it with like Zion, with Ingram. Maybe you could take a shot on Derek Favors. We'll talk more about him when we get to center. But just in terms of mid-range plays at point guard, Markelle Fultz, I think he stands out on Yahoo. We'll talk about him in a second. But Satoransky, I do like quite a bit on both sites. 5,400 on DraftKings, pretty cheap price tag. He's very cheap over on Yahoo as well, only $15. So with the injury to Chris Dunn and him no longer in the lineup for like the next, I believe it's 2 weeks, he's going to be out. I think it's that 2 weeks, either like 2 weeks or 2 months. I think it's 2 weeks. But with Chris Dunn out of the lineup, Satoransky, his minutes should be pretty secure. He played 30 minutes last game in a blowout loss to the Raptors. I think if that game stays close, Satoransky probably plays like 32 to 34 minutes. That's what I would expect him to play today against the Pelicans, assuming this game stays close, which I think it will. If we're going to get 32 to 34 minutes from Satoransky, he can easily give you a fantasy point per minute. I mean, this is a guy that has shown upside when given the minutes. 31 minutes, 34 DraftKings points. Scrolling down a little bit, 41 DK points, 30 minutes. Like, you can definitely go to these guys or go to Satoransky and some of these Chicago guys, especially in a pace-up spot against the Pelicans. We know the Pelicans, they played a very fast pace. They're third in pace this season. The Bulls rank middle of the pack. They're 16th in pace, so this is a pretty big pace-up spot for them. I think on the season, Satoransky's averaged like 0.9 fantasy points per minute, so even if you give him like 34 minutes, he still projects for close to 30 DraftKings points, which is pretty good at 5,400. Plus, you factor in the pace-up matchup. I do like him quite a bit on today's slate. I was pretty high on him on the last slate. I think it was like a short Sunday slate. It was like 3 or 4 games. I did play a lot of him on Sunday. Definitely going to be going right back to him on today's slate. I do like the spot quite a bit. But then Markelle Fultz, I did want to talk about him on Yahoo. So Fultz is very reasonably priced, only $18 in a matchup against the Knicks. He's coming off a really big game against Charlotte where he played nearly 35 minutes, had 12 and 14 with 1 rebound, 2 steals, had 38 fantasy points in that game. Markelle Fultz, usually a guy I don't play, especially like he's just not a guy that I go to much when it's like a bigger slate, but that's not the case today. We only have 5 games. We don't have a ton of value either. Like, there's no standout plays today. There's no teams that are like injury depleted. Like Wednesday we saw with like the Thunder, or not the Thunder, but the Timberwolves. They were really injury depleted. They were a team to target for value. The Nuggets had like 7 healthy bodies because of the trades. Like, there was a value from the Nuggets. There's just like no value today, at least looking at the slate on Wednesday night. Maybe that could change, but right now it's pretty tough to find like any cheap plays I'm in love with. So I think going to this mid-range at point guard makes plenty of sense. And I do like Markelle Fultz at only $18 against the Knicks. I think that is a very reasonable price tag for him. I could see him having success in this matchup. Knicks, we know they're not that good of a defensive team. towards the bottom of the league in defensive rating. They rank 25th in defensive rating. So I do like Fultz. At his DraftKings salary of $6,100, I'll probably look elsewhere. I don't think I'll be getting to him much on DK. But really, I think that's it for point guard. Like, there's no value here. There's no cheap plays that stand out. Even if Westbrook's out, I really don't want to go to Austin Rivers just because he's not going to get the minutes. I mean, with Westbrook out last game, Rivers played 29 minutes, 23 DraftKings points. I mean, it's a fine option. Coming off the bench, he's probably going to play close to 30 minutes, like maybe 26 to 28 minutes, but he needs all the minutes he can get when he's playing alongside James Harden. Like, he's just not that productive of a player playing alongside Harden, so really don't want to go there even if Westbrook's out. I doubt I get to much Austin Rivers. So let's go ahead and talk about shooting guard now. Looking at this position, Zach LaVine I like quite a bit in this matchup against the Pelicans. His price has finally come down a little bit on DraftKings to $8,400. We saw he was like towards the $9K. That day against the Spurs, he got up near $10K. Really had no interest in him on those days, but now that he's down to $8,400, especially in a big pace-up matchup against the Pelicans, I like Zach LaVine quite a bit at this spot or in this spot. If you can pay up for him at shooting guard, I think he is one of the better options to go to. Now, if Russell Westbrook's out, I'm going to try and prioritize getting James Harden into my lineups, but LaVine looks like a pretty good option at $38 on Yahoo, $8,400 on DraftKings. I like him a lot in this matchup. You could take a shot on Drew Holiday, but it's just so hard to predict what these Pelicans guys are going to do on a nightly basis now that they're fully healthy. You just don't know who's going to put up the big game, who's going to take the most shots. Really hard to trust him. So other shooting guard options, I guess if Russell Westbrook's out again, you could play Ben McLemore. He started with Westbrook out, played big minutes, played 37 minutes, had 26 DraftKings points. The price is up to $4,500, so he's not a must-play by any means, but we're kind of desperate for value. So I could see using him. I could see using Rivers if Westbrook's out. I guess if you want to play a guy like JJ Redick, maybe he gets like 22, 24 minutes off the bench. If he gets hot from the field, you could see him put up like 25, maybe 30 DraftKings points. I'm not really going to count. I mean, he put up 39 DK points against the Bulls earlier this season, but that was back when he was starting and playing big minutes. That's not the case right now. Redick's coming off the bench, usually getting about 20 to 22 minutes a night. At $3,600, we're kind of desperate for value. I could see playing him as a cheap option, but I don't feel too great about that. So yeah, shooting guard kind of sucks today. There's not like any standout plays. I mean, this slate in general is just really gross. There's no value that I see. I guess you're probably going to want to try and pay up here if you can for Zach LaVine. If Westbrook's out, you obviously want Harden. DeRozan I don't really love at his price tag. I think I'd rather play LaVine for a little bit more. I mean, Drew Holiday, tough to trust him right now. I guess, yeah, if Westbrook's out, forgot to mention Eric Gordon. You could definitely go back to Eric Gordon if he's out again. RJ Barrett's expected to play today. I think he got a full practice in on Wednesday. If RJ Barrett's not limited and he's 5K, I mean, I guess you could go there. But let's go ahead and move on to small forward now. We'll talk about this position. So looking at guys I haven't mentioned, Brendan Ingram, I do like quite a bit. $7,600 on DraftKings. I think his price tag is very appealing, especially in this matchup against the Bulls. You can definitely target Bulls with forwards. That's where they've been weaker on their defensive interior, I guess. I guess power forwards and centers, just forwards in general, they have struggled. Getting Chris Dunn out of the lineup doesn't really help. Chris Dunn is a pretty solid defender. So I like Brandon Ingram quite a bit at $7,600. Even with Zion in the lineup lately, it really hasn't hurt Ingram. Like, he's still been putting up solid numbers. 38 minutes, 36 minutes the last two games, 49, 48 DraftKings points. He still leads the Pelicans in usage, even with Zion, Zion in the lineup now. We'll take a look at the numbers for the Pelicans this season. You can see that once we pull up the numbers, Zion is second on the team in usage in the small sample size that he's played. He's got about a 28% usage rate. But you see Brandon Ingram, 28.9, so nearly 29% usage rate, averaging 1.23 fantasy points per minute, 20% assist percentage, 10% total rebound percentage. Like, the guy's going to give you 1.2 to 1.3 fantasy points per minute most nights. We know he's going to play monster minutes, getting 36, 38 minutes in close games. I expect this game to stay close. I think if Brandon Ingram plays 36 to 38 minutes, which he should, he looks like a really good option at $7,600. He's finally he's finally looked like himself recently. He had a struggle there where he was really struggling. Had 4 or 5 games in a row with under 40 DK points. Last 2 games, 49, 48 DK points. Now he gets a favorable matchup against the Bulls, a team you can definitely attack down low. So I like Ingram at $7,600. I think he really stands out on DraftKings. You can go to him on Yahoo as well. At small forward, he looks like one of the better pay-up options. You do have him for $35, DeRozan for $36. I think I'd rather play Ingram at $35. Like the small forward position is pretty gross on Yahoo. There's no standout plays. We'll talk about a value option I like in a bit. But other than that, like I could definitely see paying up for Ingram at small forward. But then other guys, Chris Middleton I don't really love. Tobias Harris I think is a fine option against the Bucks. Big time pace up matchup. This is a spot where Harris should have some success in a pace up matchup. It's a 5-game slate where options are really limited. Normally I don't play Tobias Harris when the Sixers are fully healthy, but on a short slate like this, I could see going to him in the mid range. Even if Westbrook is out, I don't really want to go to Daniel House at 6K. Don't have a ton of interest there. Eric Gordon I could see playing if Westbrook's out. In terms of value plays, like Josh Hart's been getting solid run off the bench, about 30 minutes last few games. He's been very productive, 28, 34, 34, 31 DraftKings points. Gotten at least 28 minutes in 3 straight games. I mean, if he's going to play 28 to 30 minutes at 4,900, like you could definitely use Josh Hart as a value option. You could go to Trevor Ariza as well. Ariza's a guy that's going to play probably 30, 32 minutes if the game's close. Last 2 games have been blowouts. They beat the Jazz by 17. They lost to Denver by nearly 30 points. I think that was one of the reasons that Ariza's minutes were kind of down in those games. He's going to play big minutes most nights. He's 4,300. The price tag has come down on DraftKings. So I think Trevor Ariza is in play as a value, but the value that I think really stands out as small forward is Chandler Hutchison. I mean, I don't love Chandler Hutchison like as a player, but 4,300, got 28 minutes last game against the Raptors. That was a blowout. He did start that game with Chris Dunn out. Now he gets a big pace-up matchup, really good matchup against the Pelicans. If we're going to get 30 minutes or 30 or more minutes from Chandler Hutchison at 4,300, like especially on a slate where we're kind of desperate for value, I will definitely take that. I think if he plays 30 to 32 minutes, he can easily give you close to 30 DraftKings points. I know he's not the 3,400 that he was on the last slate. Getting him at 3,400 was obviously a steal. Now that he's up to 4,300 today, not nearly as good of a play as he was on Sunday's slate, but still, I think he's in play, especially in this matchup. He is still really cheap on Yahoo. He's still minimum salary over there, so I think he does look like one of the better small forward options. If you're not going to pay up for Brandon Ingram, I think going to Hutchison at minimum salary makes plenty of sense. Assuming he starts again, which I have to assume he does while Chris Dunn remains out, Hutchison, I'd expect, probably gets 30 minutes or more in the starting lineup, which makes him a solid value, especially in a really good matchup against the Pelicans. But then you have J.J. Redick, a guy you could take a shot on. But other than that, I think that's it for small forward. So let's go ahead and move on to power forward now. At the top here, we do have Giannis at the top for 11,100 against the Sixers. I do like Giannis quite a bit today. This isn't the best matchup against the Sixers. We know they have a pretty solid defense. They're just a really solid defensive team overall. But this is a game that you expect to stay close, and you expect Giannis to play his full allotment of minutes. And that's when I really like to target Giannis. I like to play him when he's going to be in competitive games. And like I said, that should be the case today. I mean, as of late, like Giannis has just been so consistent, giving you 60 plus, if not like 50 plus DraftKings points. He's got 50 plus DraftKings points in 9 of his last 10 games. When he plays 30 plus minutes, it is very unlikely he disappoints. If he plays 30 minutes, he's going to give you 50 DraftKings points most nights, if not more. He just feels so safe at 11,100. Obviously, there's a massive ceiling for Giannis, especially in a game like this, I should say. A game that should stay close. Like, there's a chance maybe Giannis gets 34, 35 minutes today, which would make him an excellent option at 11,100. You look at his numbers this season, this guy, I mean, he nearly puts up similar numbers to, like, when you take Russell Westbrook off the floor and you look at James Harden's numbers with Westbrook off, they're not much better, or they're a little bit better than Giannis, but not by much. I mean, Giannis still averages nearly 1.9 fantasy points per minute, 37% usage rate, 33% assist percentage, 21% total rebound percentage. The only reason he doesn't put up like 80 DraftKings points every night is because the Bucks just blow out everybody, and Giannis sometimes just gets his minutes limited. Like if he played 36 minutes every night, he'd be a 12K, near 13K player probably every night. The blowouts and the Bucks just being so good as a team keep his minutes down, but this is a spot we should expect him to play his full allotment of minutes, which makes him, I think, one of the better stud options today. Now, if Westbrook's out and Harden, that would obviously open up Harden as a great option, but for now, I'm assuming Westbrook plays, which makes Giannis my favorite stud to go to on both sides. It's $55 on Yahoo, which I think is a pretty reasonable price as well. Other power forwards, Anthony Davis is a guy that I definitely want to talk about. So I have no idea who the Rockets are going to use to guard Anthony Davis. With Clint Capella no longer on the team, he got traded to the Hawks. Lately, with Clint Capella out, they've been using PJ Tucker at center and starting Daniel House at the 4. Like, there's just no way that works out today. I don't see how they're going to put PJ Tucker against Anthony Davis. Like, Anthony Davis should absolutely go nuts if they put PJ Tucker against him. PJ Tucker's a strong guy. He's a good defender, but he's definitely undersized, especially to defend a guy like Anthony Davis. I think there's maybe a chance we see a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein or maybe Tyson Chandler get some minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two guys wind up starting today just to match up with this big Lakers front court. I'd be very surprised if they roll out PJ Tucker and Daniel House to defend Anthony Davis and JaVale McGee. Like, if that's the case, I mean, Anthony Davis should absolutely go off today. I'd expect he gets back to his full allotment of minutes. Only played 29 minutes against the Spurs, but that was a blowout. Won that game by 27. I mean, he gets big minutes in games that are close, and this is a game that should stay close against the Rockets, especially if the Rockets do get Westbrook back for this game. So next to Giannis, AD is probably my next favorite stud. Honestly, I think I'd slightly prefer him over LeBron. I know I talked about LeBron a lot at the beginning of the video, but I think Giannis and AD are my two favorite studs today. And obviously, if Westbrook's out, you could put Harden in that category as well. And I think power forward's probably going to be a position I try and pay up today because I really like the top two guys. I think now that Zion is confirmed in, I think Zion looks like a really good option against the Bulls. This Bulls team definitely struggles to defend power forwards, to defend bigs. Zion's getting full minutes right now, 32, 33 minutes the last two games. I have to expect he plays probably 32, 34 minutes today, averaging nearly 1.3 fantasy points per minute this season. He still looks really good, even at 7,700. LaMarcus Aldridge, though, I like quite a bit at his salary of 6,500 on DraftKings, so I was pretty heavy on Aldridge on the last slate. I thought he was way underpriced. Even in a tough matchup against the Lakers, 6,200 was just way too cheap of a price tag for Aldridge. He really disappointed in that game. 30 minutes, only 14 DraftKings points. I would expect a big bounce-back game from Aldridge today. This is a very favorable matchup against the Blazers. This is a spot that Aldridge has had a lot of success in this season, averaging 47 DraftKings points through 2 games against Portland. Aldridge can definitely have success against Whiteside. Whiteside's really not that good of a defender. And at 6,500, with his price tag coming down, he looks like a really good option at power forward. You can also play him at center on DraftKings. And on Yahoo, he's at center, but I think he's one of the better center options to go to. Only $27 definitely stands out as being too cheap over on Yahoo as well. Aldridge, definitely one of the better mid-range options on this slate, just in my opinion. I think he's way too cheap, especially in a good matchup against Portland. Portland plays at a relatively fast pace, 11th in pace this season. In terms of defensive rating, they are towards the bottom of the league, 26th in defensive rating. But then other power forwards that we could look to, PJ Tucker's been playing really well since starting at center, now that he's starting at center, but he's 6,200 on DraftKings. I have no interest in PJ Tucker at 6,200. If you were going to play him, I think it'd probably be on Yahoo. He's still a little too cheap over there. Or I wouldn't say he's too cheap, but he's still reasonably priced, $16 on Yahoo. Other power forwards, though, I think Thaddeus Young at 5,500 is definitely in play. Finally had a solid game last game against Toronto. 34 DraftKings points in 30 minutes. With Lauri Markkanen out, I mean, Young's going to continue to start at power forward, probably play 30 to 32 minutes, if not more, most nights if the game's close. This is a favorable matchup against the Pelicans. Young had some success in this matchup earlier this season, 35 DK points in 34 minutes. Wouldn't be surprised if he puts up a similar line to that today. So I like him in the mid-range. I think he does stand out at power forward if you want to go to him. I don't think there's really any value plays, though. Luke Kornet continues to start at center. Last game he played 23 minutes in a blowout loss to the Raptors. Who knows how many minutes today he gets today? Assuming he continues to start, Daniel Gafford did return for that game. I'm not sure if Gafford, I thought I saw Gafford was maybe questionable. So Gafford's actually doubtful for today, which is kind of interesting. I mean, Gafford only played 9 minutes last game against the Raptors. He really didn't impact Kornet that much. But still, with all the injuries, obviously no Gafford, no Lauri Markkanen. I believe there's someone else out for the, or Wendell Carter's out as well. So all those 3 guys out for the Bulls. I mean, if you're going to get 30 minutes from Luke Kornet at 3,900 against the Pelicans, like, he might be one of the better value plays on the slate, just at least as of now, especially with like minimal value that we have. I definitely like Kornet as a value option. He's power forward and center eligible on DraftKings, which makes him more appealing as well. I mean, in games where like Gafford hasn't played in games where he's started center. I mean, 28 minutes, 31 minutes, 26 minutes. I'd say he probably plays like 26, 28 minutes today, which puts him in play at only 3,900. So if I were to go cheap at power forward, he would be a good option. I think under 4K, he might be probably the best under 4K option that we have right now. Maybe that could change as the day goes on, but at least as of now, I mean, he looks like a pretty good value with minimal value. Just looking at this like the night before, really nothing that stands out. But we'll talk about centers real quick just before we end the video. So at this position, Joel Embiid, you do have at 9,100 against the Bucks. Embiid's a fine option today. I do like that price tag quite a bit. Price tag has come down a little bit to 90, or he was 9,200 last night against Miami, 9,100 today. Played 33 minutes in their blowout loss to the Heat. Still had 50 Draftkings points. This is a spot where Embiid had a lot of success. Only 28 minutes against the Bucks. I'm pretty sure that was Christmas Day. Still had 55 Draftkings points in 28 minutes. I'm pretty sure like Embiid always does well against the Bucks. So if you want to go to him at 9,100, he's definitely in play today. If I can find the salary, I would probably try and get up to Anthony Davis, get up to Giannis, but Embiid's in play for me, and maybe if some more value opens up and it's easier to get him in, then I'll be able to get him into more of my lineups. But for now, I don't think he's going to be a core play for me. I really don't think I'm going to be spending up that much at center unless I'm going to Anthony Davis. I really like Aldridge in the mid-range. You can go to Zion. I think Whiteside at 8K is in play against the Spurs. Tucker, I don't really have a lot of interest in. Don't really like Al Horford. Brook Lopez is fine at 5,200. Like if we're going to get 30, 32 minutes from Brook Lopez, I could see him being a fine option. Derek Favors is in a great matchup, but his minutes have just been way down recently. It's hard to trust him. 23, 20, 24, 25 minutes. Favors could go for 30 Draftkings points in 25 minutes against this Bulls front court. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does. So on a short slate, he's in play, but I don't feel too great about that. Like his minutes are just so low right now that it really hurts his upside. You have Cornette you could go to as a value at center, assuming he continues to start. But I think that's it for center, guys. Keep an eye out on the Rockets starting lineup as well. Wouldn't be surprised if they wound up starting one of Tyson Chandler or Hartenstein just to match up with this big Lakers front court. I don't feel like this is a spot where PJ Tucker is going to be able to guard Anthony Davis. They're going to need somebody big out there. So obviously if maybe like Hartenstein were to start, then he would be a really good value play. But I don't know if we get that news before lock. Given it's a 10:30 game, I doubt we do. So I think that's it for this 5-game slate, guys. I think we covered everything. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, as always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below before you do get out of here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. Also, link down below is my Patreon. If you do want to check out all the exclusive content I have to offer over there, get access to my article, my updated core plays, you can get in our Discord chat, all that stuff is available on Patreon, link down below. But best of luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for supporting the channel, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.